Okay, everyone, can you hear me? Can everyone hear me? Okay, so today we're gonna talk about cheesecake and also choux paste. Okay, so I'll go through with the three type of the cheesecake we are shown in the Aka Chef online, which is the cotton soft cheesecake, chilled cheesecake, or the no bake cheesecake, or we call chilled cheesecake. Okay, so first of all, we'll go through the cotton soft cheesecake. So I believe every one of you know or eaten cotton soft cheesecake. So the reason why the cheesecake is very light and airy is usually the cotton soft cheesecake, you have a lot of meringue inside, which means whipped egg white is fall into the batter. So usually for cotton soft cheesecake, we have no crust on the bottom. Okay, sometimes also known as a souffle cheesecake because it's very airy and light. Okay, that's why it's called cotton soft cheesecake. Okay, so any guys, you have question about the cotton soft cheesecake? Okay, so usually for cotton soft cheesecake, you need to bake in a low temperature in in the oven for quite some times, and then after that we need to increase the heat again, the topper heat, to get the golden brown color on the top of the cotton soft cheesecake. Okay, so no question, I will go to the next one. Okay, so next we will have this big cheesecake, or the one we are teaching is a New York style. So New York cheesecake is quite dense and it's very rich and heavy. Okay, so usually if you eat one bite, one slice is already more than enough because the amount of the cream cheese, and it's very rich in the cheese. Okay, so the reason why it's so rich is due to the amount of the cream cheese is used in the cheesecake. Okay, so regular cheesecake relies on heavy cream and sour cream to thin the batter and create a silkier and creamier texture. But New York cheesecake is slightly heavy on the cream cheese. That's why it's slightly more rich and dense compared to regular cheesecake. Okay, so usually a general question regarding storing the cheesecake in freezer. What is the best way? Usually for me to store the cheesecake, I will wrap them individually, okay, in a cling wrap, and you keep inside the freezer. Okay. I baked the cotton soft cheesecake, but the top color is not nice and a bit cracked. If it start to crack, which means the temperature is too high, you need to understand your oven. Okay, regarding, and also few more try and error. Okay, for the top color, usually you can at the end of the baking, you can actually increase the top heat slightly more higher to get the color. Okay, yes, the cotton soft cheesecake is actually, you need to have this like golden brown surface on the top. Okay, so usually after baking already, I will increase the heat at the top to get the color on top of the cheesecake. If it's cracked, which means it's too hot, your oven. Okay, so next, okay, New York style cheesecake is very simple. Okay, usually we add sour cream and lemon juice. If you see in the recipe, we do add sour cream or yogurt or lemon juice, okay, to give it a bit acidic taste, so it's not too heavy when you eat it. Okay, for the baked cheesecake. So next we have a no bake cheesecake, or we call it the Choux cheesecake. Okay, so I saw some people suggest to use very high heat at the beginning of the baking soft cheesecake. Does it work? from actually, right, there is plenty ways to cook, to bake your cotton soft cheesecake. Of course, we find it at the beginning, we use a lower temperature to bake it and then use a higher temperature to form the color on top of the cotton soft cheesecake. So there is no right or wrong, okay? It's about if you think that that method works, it works, okay? There's no wrong or right, okay? For us, we always prefer to bake it at a low temperature and then we bring it to a slightly higher temperature to get the color on the top, okay? So next, about a no-bake cheesecake, or we call a chilled cheesecake. So as the name implies already, it doesn't need any cooking, just mixing and chilling it. It's much more homogeneous in texture, at least smooth, okay? Make sure your cream cheese when you use for this one, always bring it to a room temperature to soft down the cream cheese, okay? To fully soften and properly blend with the other ingredients. Sorry, okay, blend it with other ingredients, which you always do, no matter what kind you are making, unless you want tiny little lumps or cheese lump in your filling. So make sure it's everything in the room temperature before you start to do the mixing, okay? My crust or the bottom layer for chilled cheesecake is always so hard. It's difficult to cut through. I think the amount of butter you put in your crust is too much. That's why the more fats you have in the crust is more you cut the cake. Or there is another possibility, which means you compact your crust very, very compact. Okay, so usually for me, the crust, I just lightly press the crust, okay, instead of compact it. Okay, why is the height of the cheesecake much lower compared to the recipe? Why is the height of the cake much lower compared to actually it depends on the amount of recipe you have and the ring you have. If you have bigger ring with the same quantity and you are using a smaller ring, the height will be slightly more different, okay? As after how many times should we increase the temperature? Asil, can you clarify your question? I don't understand. Okay, so compared to the baked cheesecake, right? Baked cheesecake is creamier towards the center, bottom with firmer tops and drier, slightly puffy, almost grainy texture around the edges. Okay, so there is a difference. So another difference is that chilled cheesecake, we does not use any eggs inside. Okay, the cream cheese filling is often stabilized with gelatin. That's why you chill it, it set with the gelatin. Okay, some people also use condensed milk or whipped cream. In our recipe, we do use whipped cream or sour cream for a softer and a more delicate result, okay, to make your chilled cheesecake slightly more lighter. So as you can see, our Apka Chef online recipe for the chilled cheesecake, we use a whipped cream inside, okay? So these don't hold up at room temperature as long as baked cheesecake, which is good to know if you plan to travel with one. Okay, so of course, the chilled cheesecake, you need to keep in the chiller. Baked cheesecake, you can stand slightly more longer in the room temperature. Okay. Any question, guys? Okay, if not, then we go to the next one, which is the choux. Initially, baking at lower temperature, then we are baking at higher temperature. So in what is the time gap? Actually, baking lower and usually let's say if you are baking to the same mold, right, maybe 35 minutes to 45 minutes. So the last 10 minutes, I will increase the temperature. So, usually not hours, I just increase the temperature slightly for 10 to 15 minutes just to get the color. The longer I put in a higher temperature, it will start to crack, okay, because the heat is too much. I tried it with mango, it was delicious. Any advice of adjusting the gelatin for other fruit puree other than yuzu, blood orange, or citrus? No. If you are using for actually it works well with mango, or I did with strawberry, raspberry also. I did not change the amount of gelatin. It works good. Okay, so unless you are using for other small high citrus food, then you need to add more gelatin inside. Okay. Okay, any more question about cheesecake? If not, we'll go to the choux. Okay, so for choux, after we prepare the choux batter, can we chill the choux batter until we are ready to bake? Yes, I do that all the time, especially for eclair. I want it very nice firm choux texture. Usually I keep inside a chiller, then only I use a piping nozzle to pipe it out for the eclair. Okay, other than that, you don't have, not necessary to chill it or rest it. Okay. Can we chill the choux after we pipe on seal pad and bake when we want? Usually for me, if you want to bake the next day, I will prefer to keep inside the freezer. So usually I'll pipe, freeze it, okay, and then make sure after you freeze it, you actually can remove the choux and then you put in a container. Make sure you wrap it with a cling wrap, and then next day you just take out the choux and then you just put on top of the seal pad and bake. It works. Okay, but if you're gonna plan to bake it the next day, but I always prefer to freeze it, don't chill it, because if we chill it, if you chill too much, right, it will start to dry, especially when you don't wrap the choux. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about religious. Okay, so religious, as you can see, there is one bigger puff here and one smaller puff on the top. Okay, so the religious, in French we call it nun. Okay, because of the resemblance to a nun in a habit. Okay, so you actually resemble a nun. Okay, so this is the religious, but all the choux, right, is actually for the religious, Paris Brest, or the choux or the eclair. They are using the same choux paste, just different design. Okay, so next we have this Paris Brest. Okay, it's like a donut. Okay, actually this one Paris Brest, later I'll tell you a bit of the history of why is it called Paris Brest. Okay, it's actually like from a bicycle race, okay, from Paris to Brest. Brest is also a city. Okay, so they actually have a cycling competition from Paris to Brest. That's why you call it Paris Brest. And this one resembles the tire of the bicycle. Okay, so as you can see, Paris Brest can be in different type of form. Now if you see, you can actually sprinkle with the nuts, or you want to put with the pearl sugar, it works. Okay, so usually Paris Brest will put a muslin inside. Okay, so next we have a normal choux, which is your individual puff. Okay, you can pipe with chantilly, or you can pipe with creme diplomate. You can do with different flavor and different design as well. Okay, so this is almost all the basic one we have. Then next we have this eclair. Okay, same choux paste, or we call it pata choux. Okay, but in just a elongated size. So any question for this one? If not, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the theory behind choux pastry, like the process you are doing. Okay, choux can be quite tricky sometimes if you don't follow the procedure nicely, or you don't follow the temperature properly. Okay, so choux paste is the only paste that does not require resting, which means you can, once you've done the choux, you can pipe and bake straightly. You don't have to chill in the chiller. It's not necessary. Okay, or freeze it to let it rest. Okay,
So it's actually a mixture of boiling water or milk, fat, which is the butter, and flour, which forms a panada. Okay, so at the first of the process, boil the liquid and the butter together. Okay, so of course you're going to cut your butter into a smaller piece. It will speed up the melting process. The liquid should be boiling rapidly when the flour is added, so the starch cells in the flour burst open, allowing them to accept more liquid. So if you can see, right, once you boil the liquid, you add in your flour, okay, it will start to form a dough. So you don't see any more liquid. So it actually the flour will start to burst open and absorb more liquid inside. Once the liquid boil, remove it from the heat and then add the sifted flour immediately. Okay, you don't boil and then you add the flour and then you continue to cook. So usually what I do is, once the liquid boil, add the flour and you start to stir. Okay, this is important as the liquid will absorb the flour in lumps if added gradually, and the fats will stay separate. Okay, work the mixture through with a wooden spoon and return to heat to burn off the mixture. This term is used to describe the gelatinization of the starch in the panada. Okay. Once a white layer is formed at the bottom of the pot, okay, so usually when I cook, I need to cook off the dough until at the bottom of the pot, I will see a thin layer of skin. Okay, remove the mixture from the heat and cool down to 45. So after the mixture, I will transfer into a KitchenAid with a paddle, low speed. Okay, low speed, and then I will let it to cool down. Okay, around 45 degrees Celsius only, I will start to add in the eggs. Okay, if you don't wait until 45 or slightly more cool, you add it when it's hot, your protein in the eggs will start to coagulate. Okay, it will not provide any stability and structure to the choux itself. So usually once it's slightly more cool, around 45 degrees, then I will start to add in the eggs. Okay, always add the eggs one at a time, and gradually, if you use mixed eggs until the mixture reaches dropping consistency, which is the V-shaped consistency. So pipe on a greaseless pan, but leave some room for it to spread, so don't pipe too near. Bake large item choux bun at 200 degrees Celsius. Smaller items such as profiterole, you can go up to 220 Celsius. Okay, so any question for the procedure of the choux pastry or the prata choux? Guys, any question? Okay, if no question, I will proceed. If the choux bottom crack means too watery, what do you mean by crack? If the choux bottom crack mean too watery? Can you clarify your question? You mean the choux bottom? You mean after bake, is it? The choux bottom will start to crack? Is it what you mean? Halfway baking, then it start to crack. How can you see the bottom is cracked when it's halfway baking? You open the oven? Okay. It's normal for a choux to you see if I Google choux. Okay, usually it will start to crack if you don't have a crackling on top. Okay, it's gonna be like this. You saw in the picture, guys? You saw it's like that. If you don't have a crackling on top. So if you have a crackling on top, right, you wouldn't have any crack. Okay, because the crackling will help you to raise your puff nicely without crack. But if you don't have a crackling on the top, confirm it will crack like this. It's normal. It's normal. Okay, you see, it's very, very normal. Okay, so how to make choux crust thin and soft? Usually choux crust should be crispy, I believe. So usually for me, the choux crust, or we call it crackling, I'll roll it to 2 mm. Okay, so it's not too thick. If it's too thick, also it's very difficult for your cream puff to puff up. Okay, it will make them flatter but not rounder. Mine got too soft and got more brown color. By too soft and more brown color, PSK? Can you clarify your question? This one, is it regarding of the choux paste, or you say during the baking or after the baking? Okay. If you don't have a kitchen aid, can we use a spatula or hand mixer to cool down? Yes, Ria, you can use a hand mixer to cool down to 45. But when it comes to emulsify the eggs, right, you need a mixer. I don't really recommend to use it a spatula, because you need to make sure you emulsify the eggs with the dough, the panada together. Okay, to make sure they emulsify the fats and the water together nicely. Okay, so any question, guys? Okay, so I would talk about during choux while baking, they got brown too early, and after baking they become soft instead of crispier. Okay, so what happened here is that if it's brown too early, which means your temperature is too high. As I told you, all the temperature that we give you is just a guideline. You need to understand your oven, because our oven we use like maybe 4-5 years already. It becomes slightly more weaker. It's not enough heat. That's why we increase the heat. So if your oven is new and you use them very rare, or the home oven which is smaller, actually you don't need to go until too high temperature to bake the choux. Okay, if we using whipped cream, can we use non-dairy cream for the cheesecake? Yes, you can use a non-dairy whipped cream for the cheesecake. It's fine. Okay, so PSK, you understand, if it browns too early, which means your oven is too hot. Okay, when you say it becomes soft instead of crispier, which means I think you didn't bake enough. Okay, okay, good. Sometimes my shoes stick to seal pad and I need to pull it out. It's like a hole at the bottom. This one is your seal pad, is the original seal pad, or the China one? Because I experienced this one also. If it happens to me, if I use the original silicone mat, okay, it doesn't have this kind of problem. If I use the China one, yes, it will stick. Okay, so you need to invest one seal pad, a good one, which means the original one, which is the silicone mat. Okay, I experienced this also. It did happen to me. If I use the China one, confirm they will stick. Okay, when I put it off, then the skin will just stick on the bottom, and then you end up with a hole at the shoe. Okay, so you can actually use the original silicone mat. It works. Okay, actually you don't have to use a seal pad. I don't really like to use seal pad also. Okay, you can actually grease your pan, I mean your tray. Okay, grease your tray and just pipe it on top of the tray. It works exactly the same. Okay, or you can use a non-stick tray. It works also. Yeah. Okay, So next, as you bake the choux paste, the water in the paste turns to steam and pushes the paste up and out. That's why this is how your choux paste, you have a hollow choux paste in the inside, because the water will start to turn to steam and help you to raise your cream puff. As the heat increases, the egg starts to coagulate and provide the structure. The starch are also starts to set and provide structure, with the being held in place once the liquid has evaporated. The product is finished once it's evenly golden brown, has doubled in size, feels light. If you tap the finished choux product, it should sound hollow. Place on top of the wire rack to prevent condensation forming. Do not open the oven in the first 10 to 15 minutes of the pastry product will collapse. The pastry needs to be almost dry on the inside and moist, indicate that the eggs has not set enough and product will collapse and taste doughy. If I want to brush butter on top of the choux pastry for eclair before baking instead of oil, how long should I put the choux pastry in the chiller? Actually, right, you don't have to put in the... Why do you want to brush butter? Because it won't taste buttery also if you brush butter. Okay, usually I just oil spray it and then I just bake it straight away. Okay, it's not necessary for you to brush butter. First, it's much more costly. Okay, oil spray is much more cheaper. If I don't have an oil spray, yeah, you can brush butter if you don't have oil spray. I mean that. Okay, it's not necessary that you need if you don't have an oil spray, then of course you can brush butter. Oil spray is just much more easier. It works only. Yes, you need to freeze it and then only you brush it with your butter. If you don't freeze it, the problem is that maybe the choux is too soft, and then when you brush the butter, you will smash the dough and then it will not rise nicely. Okay. Any more questions? So usually when during the baking, the first 10-15 minutes don't open. And even though after 10 or 15 minutes, I never open the oven until it's almost 90% to 95% baked. Only I will start to open and check whether my choux is light and hollow. Okay. So this paste is used in a multitude of sweet and savory dishes. It is very versatile as it can be fried, poached, or baked depending on the menu item. Products such as Profiterole, Eclair are more commonly used. Choux bun and beignet souffle are ideal for afternoon tea. Croquembouche, gâteaux, centenaires, swan are more spectacular menu items. Beignet souffle fromage, cheese finger fritter with bacon, cheese, and can be used for savory. So choux paste product can be filled with chantilly cream, pastry cream, diplomat cream, flavored pastry cream, or you actually with muslin also is fine. The finished product can be garnished with icing sugar, melted chocolate, or coffee icing. Plain fondant for eclair. Fondant mixed with coffee or chocolate is also used, okay, for decor the eclair. So we have a few example of the choux pastry item. We have eclair. Pack the choux paste into finger shape. Okay, fill the big glazed eclair with diplomat cream or chantilly cream. Okay, and then we have centenaire. Bake the puff paste these and attach it. Fill the profiterole. Fill with the shibus and garnish with sugar. Actually, all the filling, right, you can modify. Not necessary eclair must be used chantilly cream or the diplomat cream. Actually, you want to put pastry cream or muslin also, it's fine. Okay, just that the shape of the pastry item is just slightly more different. Okay, and next we have profiteroles, small choux. you can diplomat cream or chantilly, and then for decoration you can put icing sugar, you can coat with chocolate. Okay, choux buns. Okay, choux bun is slightly more bigger compared to the profiterole with diplomat cream, and then you can dust with icing sugar or snow powder, it's fine. And then croquembouche is actually this. Actually, last time they used this is used in the wedding. Okay, as a wedding cake. This is croquembouche. Okay, like this. You have all the small profiteroles, and then you're gonna drizzle with the caramel on top. Okay. So next we will have a Paris breast. Okay, named after a bike raised in France. Pipe into rings and sprinkle with almond flakes and bake until golden brown. Cut them in half. Okay, fill with diplomat cream, or you can put some muslin. Serve with the cream on the side. Okay, it's anyhow you want. So any more question for the choux, guys? Guys, do you have any more question? How many days do we keep choux shell ready? How many days do we keep choux shell ready? What do you mean, PSK? Can you clarify your question? How long can we store eclair? As long as it is not filled with filling, with just eclair, you can store in the freezer up to 1 month. Okay. Yes, you can. If you want to serve the next day, you can remake and keep it ready. It's served next day with filling. Yes, usually after I bake all my choux, I will just let it cool down to room temperature, and then I will just store it inside the freezer. Okay. After piping with filling, what is the shelf life of the choux so it won't turn soggy? Okay, for choux, right, after you pipe with the filling, the shelf life actually is only 1 day. Okay, because if you eat the next day, your choux is not gonna be crispy anymore. It's gonna be soggy because they will start to absorb the moisture from your filling. I want to store uncooked choux. What is the best method? How to make them ready for piping and baking? Okay, for me, I don't store any not piped choux. So usually what I need to do is that I will do the choux, I will pipe in whatever shape I want, and then I just freeze it. I wrap it and freeze it. It's just go for baking. Okay, I never store the choux which is not big and then you're gonna pipe the next day. Okay, I don't do that. So usually I just do the choux, pipe everything that you want and freeze it, and then you just bake whenever you want. Okay. Profiteroles and cockroach, they are all the same recipe, my dear. Even it's eclair, it's also choux pastry, it's the same. Profiterole and for cockroach is just like a cone where you stick a lot of profiteroles. Basically, they are profiteroles. So profiteroles, the recipes are choux pastry. It's the same. It's just in different form of size and shape. Okay.
Any more questions? Okay, so if there are no questions, then we are going to end the session today. Okay, see you in the next session. Welcome.